What's going on out there, you ghouls and goblins? Your two favorite rascals are back to talk about what they love the most: horror movies during the 31 days of horror.
Say my name, say my
Candyman. Candyman. You don't have to believe. Just beware.
I was thinking the same thing, dude. Just a couple minutes ago, I was like, man, I'm going to start singing that because it came into my head. Say my because I was like thinking of a tagline, say my name.
Yeah.
Which was the tagline of the new Candyman film. But that's right. I'm Henry Hill. I'm here with my good mate, Logan Myers. And we have watched Candyman from 1992, as well as the new Candyman. So we're going to be talking about these for the 31 Days of Horror. And first, we're going to dive right into 1992's Candyman, directed by Bernard Rose and starring Virginia Madsen. And man, she chain smoked back then on set, huh?
Things are wilder in the 90s. For the kids out there that didn't get to experience the 1990s, you can smoke in public and restaurants, and things got pretty wild, and people didn't get so butthurt over little things like that back then. The original Candyman, all these years later, he's become one of the, horror icons in terms of killers. Candyman himself, Tony Todd, met him a bunch of times at local horror conventions. Really cool guy. He's got that really deep and menacing voice. And this is really our first glimpse into this character, having to do with Chicago in the backdrop. Us growing up in Illinois, going to the city. We saw Cabrini-Green back in the day, the projects. They tore it down and built, a bunch of apartment complexes and high rises. And it really dives into that in the new film. But the original 1992 is really Virginia Madsen's character, grad student. And she's looking into this monster himself, Candyman, this like lore, urban legend kind of going on in Chicago in the projects, and really ends up bringing back Candyman to life by saying his name 5 times.
Daniel Robitaille is summoned when you say Candyman 5 times. Even today, even knowing it's fake, it's like, yeah, I'm not going to say it 5 times in a row. I'll say it a couple times. I'm like, I don't want any bad juju. So yeah, Candyman has that, same kind of thing with Bloody Mary. Any of those old kid games where you looked into the mirror, said your name, turned off the lights, those kind of things, urban legends back in the day. So Candyman plays on this urban legend, I should say, with Cabrini-Green, like we mentioned, in Chicago, and just the projects. And how Black people had to live back in these times. Their reality was totally different than anybody else's. And we see that in this movie. Bernard Rose did a good job of capturing like just the look and feel of Cabrini-Green, with the characters they run across and with the graffiti all over the buildings. You just get the feel for how they built these complexes to house them, and then they it's just went to shit. Nobody comes and maintains anything. They're kind of just left there, and here's your place and good luck. You kind of get that in the characters you come across. Virginia Madsen's going to investigate a killing that's happened in Cabrini-Green. She's looking to, find some people to talk about it. Like you mentioned, she's a grad student. She's got her thesis paper she's working on, where she wants to, uncover the murders of the Candyman. And eventually, old Virginia Madsen herself, she is able to summon Candyman. And all the killings and the scenes that we see Candyman, he's pretty menacing.
Yeah,
for the most part. I liked him as a villain.
Not to mention, he's a big guy. Like we said, we met him. He's like 6'4". I don't know how tall he is. He's a big guy.
Yeah, he's very
tall. When you're seeing that, saying the name Candyman 5 times in the mirror, shows up, starts killing people with the hook. A lot of great practical effects. He's really a scary dude. And I love Tony Todd. He's a very versatile actor. He does a lot of different roles. But this is probably his most famous role. Everybody knows him as Candyman. And really starting the franchise back in 1992. This book, it's based off the book, The Forbidden by Clive Barker. All the horror fans out there obviously know Uncle Clive from Hellraiser franchise, and also Nightbreed, which is my favorite film of his, actually written, adapted from his book. And it really tells a chilling tale of this, urban legend killer having to do with a guy with the hook and candy. obviously Candyman, and then having to do it, you see, with bees. So lots of, bees, people that have the phobia of bees. This will definitely get under your skin because it sets up a lot of really great practical effects and really great kill scenes, memorable kill scenes from, the early 90s.
Yeah, a lot of gore in this movie that I didn't remember watching because I've only watched this movie once before, and that was in the 90s. I probably rented it back on VHS, back when you went to the video store and picked up a copy on VHS, threw it in the LVCR. But yeah, it's been a while since I visited this film, and I understood a lot more. Like, I didn't really pay attention to the story initially, but in this one, it feels very relevant to the times with, injustice, obviously racial injustice, oppression, brutality. It harkens back to a lot of the pain of that and issues like slavery, obviously. It really feels authentic, like kind of, you're seeing it from the viewpoint of how those, they live in that time and we're in that place, Cabrini-Green. So it gives you, you step into the world. It's pretty well directed like that. And the Candyman stuff is haunting too. Eventually he kind of morphs into the mind of Helen, played by Virginia Madsen. He kind of gets into her head basically. And it's him doing the killing, but, to everybody else, it looks like Helen's doing all these murders along the way after she summoned Candyman, and it leads to a crazy finale with a big bonfire. And in this film, in the original Candyman, we're actually going to see a character from this show up in the version from 2021.
Yeah, that's right. And this is just a really cool setting, adapting this from a book with Clive Barker. It has a lot of social commentary. Obviously, it was going on back in 1992 or the 90s. To what we're coming across still in 2021, 30 years later. So there's a lot of messages here, a lot of things that they really dive into the new film as well. But very, true to what was going on, especially in the projects, not just Chicago, New York, Baltimore. Really a lot of great themes, and the overall set design was really dark in this movie, and it made it feel like, something bad's going to happen, and really creates this cool lore and urban myth to the Candyman and him actually showing up and wreaking some havoc on anybody who gets in his way. And really cool film, setting up something very unique in terms of horror icons. I thought this is very original. The backstory of it and the whole side of it being in Chicago and the projects. From 1992, to set up a franchise of the Candyman and other films. But this is probably the best in the franchise for me. In terms of, Tony Todd, he just really knocks his character out of the park. Really great kill scenes. But 30 years later, I had a pretty good time with it. It's definitely a movie I recommend watching during the Halloween season, and it will get under your skin.
I thought more of the same as you did. Very well acted, and Tony Todd really owns this role of Candyman, makes him very menacing and somebody you wouldn't want to come across. Just his big foreboding presence and that booming voice, like when he said in the film, Helen, it creeped me the fuck out. So he did a really great job. This is one of the better horror villains. And Candyman had all the social aspects, as we mentioned before, and it felt very real. It didn't feel just like your everyday throwaway horror film where, some likable characters going and getting killed by somebody and they have to figure out it's not standard. It does something original. And you can tell Clive Barker had his hand in this. He created the character of Daniel Robital. So anything from Clive Barker's mind, you're going to get something pretty awesome and unique. And Candyman is that film as well. And that villain is amazing. But with that being said, I had a great time with Candyman, the 1992 horror film. I had a blast with it. I thought Virginia Madsen did a really good job in the film. I, could buy her being a grad student. She looked the part, I could believe her. She did a good job carrying the film. I thought she was a good kind of final girl, I guess you could call her, for being a horror film. I thought she did a great job. I like the supporting cast. I noticed Xander Berkeley. I noticed him as from Terminator 2. He was like the asshole dad of John Connor.
Yeah, I remember.
So it was cool seeing him in that part. And like we mentioned before, you see a couple characters that are going to come back in this new 2021 version, which we're also going to talk about.
Yeah, I have to agree with everything you said about this film. And again, not watching this for a very long time. It was fun revisiting this, seeing this as a kid and then as an adult. It still gets under your skin. It's definitely a movie you have to check out during the Halloween season. I'm going to give Bernard Rose's 1992 film Candyman a 3.5 out of 5 Tony Todd Hook hair pieces.
I am going to give Candyman a 3.5 out of 5 Helen Lyle cigarette break pieces throughout the whole film, no matter if you're eating, pooping, sleeping. She's always smoking, boys. Candyman likes that. So what did you guys think of Candyman from 1992? Did you go back and watch the original film before you saw the new film just to keep things fresh? Or did you go into the new one not having watched this one? Like me, just revisiting this from the second time. I had a great time with it. I got a lot out of it, more than I did the first time. I was very young when I saw it. So obviously knowing what's going on, beyond just the killing and knowing who the villain is, it's cool to get to the story, and the story's good and the writing's good. And that's what makes the movie work for me.
So that being said, we're going to be continuing 31 Days of Horror right here on our YouTube channel, website, Cinephellas.com, and Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram throughout the entire month of October, our favorite month of the year. I dive in a lot of new films and old classic horror films, me and this guy and the rest of the Cinephellas crew. So stay tuned to our YouTube channel right here and click subscribe below.
Thank you guys so much for following us. Tell your friends about us if they dig movies and TV shows and talking about it. We have a great time. Always discussing what we're watching and what's going on in the entertainment side. It's just a fun thing to do, and we've always loved it since we were wee little lads. So this has been the Wild Rascals here. We did our review of Candyman from 1992. We both had a really good time with it. We enjoyed it more on this viewing than we did in the past, revisiting it. We thought Candyman was a great villain. Tony Todd, obviously a legendary, one of the legendary horror villains. So we had a great time doing this. Stay tuned for more reviews for the 31 Days of Horror. We have lots of horror movies and TV shows that we're going to cover and talk about. We can't wait to get into that. Stay safe out there when you're trick-or-treating. And until the next Cinephellas review, cheese!
Say my name, say my name.
Say my name, say my name. You acting kinda shady.